Welcome to The Decision from Nashville EO, where you will hear the rest of the story after tough decisions were made by entrepreneurs who faced adversity and lived to tell about it.
Hi, Robert Hartline here with The Decision, Nashville EO Chapters podcast to help other entrepreneurs deal with the tough decisions that happen in all of our lives, whether it's in the business or in our personal life. We like to be a place for you to hear stories on how others have been facing tough decisions. And guess what? They lived to tell about it. Now we have Dave Puncochar. How are you, my friend?
Doing great, Robert. Thanks.
Did I say your name right?
I've known you for 6 years and you just butchered my last name.
I know.
I think you added like 3 syllables. It's Puncochar.
Puncochar.
Puncochar. It's okay though.
Yeah, hey,
I've been correcting people my whole life.
Hey, and you're going to get to keep doing it too.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. Awesome. Eric Jackson, thanks for joining us again as my beautiful co-host on this podcast. We finally have some episodes out. As you can see, I'm trying to learn this. What was the face?
What
was the face?
Oh, I just was looking at the camera. Sorry,
He caught his own
It's
vision.
like ADD just central. I'm like, what are all these? Oh, that one's red. That one's red. It's something wrong. I'm just learning. Sorry. Squirrel. This is fun.
This is
You know,
this is why we do
I'm
this.
new to this.
We've met.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
Can you say his name right?
I'm the same way.
Can you say his name right?
Puncochar.
There you
Ooh,
go.
that's
See?
pretty solid.
Yeah.
Make me feel bad.
I'm good with names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Dave, the reason we had you on this, you were very inspirational for all of us during the pandemic. We all kind of landed in a wild, crazy place, and then Nashville had something crazy happen right in the middle of the pandemic. What was that?
That was the March 3rd, 2020 tornado. Ripped right through Nashville. Actually, about 9 days before the March 12th sort of worldwide or U.S. kind of shut down.
Right,
so about a week and a half before everything kind of.
So take me back to that moment, because you were living in it when that happened.
I was, yeah. So March 2nd, 2020, normal night. I'm at the time I was a single dad. I'm in my little rancher in East Nashville, and regular night, just a regular school night. We all go to bed. And it was one of those, the weather was weird, but I had no idea that there were any kind of tornado warnings. Occasionally we hear tornado warnings. We have these sirens around town, but we don't always I don't always pay attention to them. So we're laying in bed, I'm asleep, maybe at midnight or 1 a.m. there's a tornado siren. I'm asleep. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't have alerts set to my apps of like, get the heck out of bed. There's a real tornado.
You were literally sleeping when it hit.
Oh yeah. I would say that half of Nashville was.
I was.
Yeah. So, and all of a sudden, one of my kids had asked like sleep in my bed that night, and I was like, sure, I don't care. So all of a sudden I woke up and it sounded like a machine gun was shooting at my house, like literally, brrr, like the noise, stuff hitting my house. I to this day, I don't know if it was just debris or if it was hail. So I woke up, and all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, this is something. This is big. And I probably understood it was a tornado, but all I knew was, I don't know if I'm going to survive this. Luckily, I had a kid in bed, so I grabbed one kid, dead asleep, and then ran down the hall to got the other 2, thankfully, and we got into this old 1950s rancher bathroom with no window.
Right.
The tiles 3 inches thick. Shut the door. I put the kids in the bathtub, and I think I got in the bathtub, and we just, sat there. But it was, glass was everywhere. Debris was everywhere. A backyard table had flown through the house. The trampoline was just, like the insurance adjuster later was like, yeah, I need to see the trampoline. I'm like, I don't know where it is. It's just gone.
Yeah.
Like it's in Kentucky. And so that was, 1 or 2 a.m. And my kids are like, do you think my kids had like a favorite tree? Anna, my daughter, she had named the street Beth. She would go climb Beth when she was feeling lonely or feeling introverted. And she says to me, Daddy, you think Beth's okay? And I'm like, oh, sure. I mean, it was a huge tree, 100 feet tall. And so around 2 a.m, when we could finally go outside safely, when we found a path outside, we went out and, of course, Beth was down, and she starts bawling and I start crying. And of course, we just couldn't sleep all night. My neighbors were elderly. They got pinned in. They came over and I put one neighbor on a couch. We dusted off the glass. He slept there.
Wow.
It was, and the power was out because all the lines got snapped. So having that happen in the night was so disorienting. I mean, it was traumatizing, but also it's just, you just couldn't, I went to open the door out the side of the house. Well, I just couldn't because the carport had just collapsed. And so the door was just pinned. And so there was just tons of, I was happy we were safe. I was thankful we were safe. Obviously, all my neighbors kind of came out and started checking on each other. And, but yeah, we woke up, March 3rd morning when dawn hit, we kind of started going outside and seeing the damage and just, we couldn't believe it.
Man.
Couldn't believe it.
Now, when you were, that next day and you're, obviously all your priorities shift, right? You go from, well, you probably went through that feeling of, oh my gosh, it could have been horrible, right?
Right.
And now you're safe. So there's a little bit of sense of relief, but also then now it's like your head is probably going lots of different directions.
It was, I was dating Sean, who I'm now married to, and she lived in New York City. So I made the conscious decision not to call her at 2 a.m. because I knew there was nothing she could do but lose a night's sleep. So once dawn hit, and then she started getting the texts, all of her friends Dave, okay. So texted her, I'm okay. Tornado hit our house. We're all okay. And so she catches the first flight down. She shows up. My family shows up. Ironically, I know this is an EO podcast, but I think we had forums scheduled. I want to say that day or the day after. And we take forum attendance very serious, and I think Lauren Reed was our meeting moderator at the time. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I can make this one, but I felt obligated, I should go,
Right,
Yeah. I was like, if I go, I'm going to be no good. And she's like, I mean, should we come over and help? And I mean, but you're just so, and ultimately this forum that was our meeting. They came over and I had members like Jay Graves, who he lived in West Nashville and didn't see that. And when they got into our neighborhood, which was almost blocked off, I mean, it was hard to actually get into the neighborhood. He was like, it's one thing when you send a picture. And when I heard about it, he goes, I had no idea that it was this bad. And so my forum came over and Josh Newman from Statement had made these cool Nashville Strong stencils. So we plywooded all the, me and my friends and everybody, we had done plywood on the windows. So he's like, do you mind if I stencil a Nashville Strong image on your plywood? And I've still got a picture of my EO forum right in front of that plywood with the Nashville Strong spray painted thing. And, it was just, so that was, that was such a support. We had just tons of community show up and strangers, and EO showed up. I think the morning of the tornado, I texted Samira and I said, who are all the people who could help me right now? I need a roofer. I got water damage. I've got this. And literally by 7 a.m., Jeff Stockton called me. He's like, I got all your storm damage. I've got you. We're on our way. Yeah. I had another guy bring a tarp. It was just it was the network of the EO.
That's one of those beautiful things about EO is that, you make one call to Samira or she finds out and you don't even know that she knows yet. Yep. And she's already marshaling the resources.
Yeah, it was remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just through the networks and through the resources, I think I had the first new roof in Nashville. I really did. I think we really had the first new roof in Nashville. And like I said, Jeff Stockton had AccuWorks out there, because my insurance agent didn't show up till Saturday. Tornado was Tuesday morning. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, And I had done all these, like, we do wide plank reclaimed floors. And so we had just put in, like, for years, I've been fixing this house up, and we had just done, like, the piece de resistance, like, right before we had them done by Thanksgiving to host our family. And we had just put these floors in. So I was like, I can't lose this house to water damage.
Right.
I cannot lose, because,
have a roof.
Like, and to give you an idea, half the houses on my street got torn down, and my house was the one where it, like, the other houses didn't. And my house was on the line between the ones that got torn down and didn't. And so thankfully we acted so quickly with Jeff, and he got tarps up and everything else. But yeah, it saved the house. So that was, boy, it was crazy. So I was super not focused on work.
Yeah.
I was, I'm our main sales guy. So I had these big bids I was supposed to get out, and I was really distracted. And all the, this hotel bid for their furniture, this restaurant owners was doing a big house, and he wanted a big floor. And this other restaurant, like a Pinewood Social Concept in Boise, I was supposed to do, like, I thought I had like $200,000 of projects that were about to hit. So I was a little distracted with my personal life. And then COVID shut the world down.
Yeah.
And then all those jobs disappeared. They were just gone. Because they were all hospitality.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And
None
so,
of that going on. Yeah.
So, I was really thinking, we do custom woodworking, custom projects, custom floors. So we have a pipeline of projects, just like any business, current projects you're working on. And sometimes we have 45 projects in the queue, and we're 3 months, 4 months out. Well, we had like 4 projects in the queue, and we thought we had these huge, these 3 $200,000 projects would have been, 50 or 60 pieces.
Right.
And when those disappeared, and then the insurance agent showed up. So I've got personal going on. The insurance agent shows up, and I know construction enough where I was like, this is a $200,000 project. Like, I could tear my house down almost. He gives me a check for $60,000, and he basically thinks that's going to cover it.
Oh, wow.
So now I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do?
You got another fight.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to kind of go bankrupt just trying to fix my house. And then when all that happened, I've got all these employees, 10 or 11 employees. We can no longer go in people's houses. All the sales, no one's spending any money.
Yeah.
Everybody's freaking out.
Yep.
And I go, oh my gosh, I'm going to go bankrupt. I'm going to go bankrupt. And so it was just, it was scary. So we, as a forum, we were all processing it together. This was before there were any PPP talks, any money, government help. This is just like, what do we do now? So our thread was on, fire. There's text going all over with our forum. And there's definitely 2 things I want to cover. Is one, was when all the restaurants, so we did a lot of work for Edley's Barbecue. And Edley's was like Edley's in the Nashville Zoo. They were like my first big clients. I was a drug rep. When I called on Edley's, I saw people, I heard there was a barbecue joint going in. I showed up in my suit. I was like, hey, you guys gonna need any barnwood? And he's like, actually, we might. And they became a customer for the last 10 years. We've done, 5 or 6 Edley's. Yeah. And so long story short, I have to back up a second. Sorry, I'm a little scattered, but the tornado hit. I'm thinking that then the world kind of shuts down. Spring break was scheduled that week anyways. We had my wife's beach house booked or she was my girlfriend at the time. We had her little beach house booked in 30A for just me and my kids. So I was like, well, there's nothing to do at work, and there's nothing to, and the house, like, we kind of got a rental, we got moved in. I was like, you know what? Let's just go to the beach. There's not, like, it'll probably do me good. So we go to the beach, and I'm just processing all of this, and I was just despairing. I really did think I was going to go bankrupt. Like, I owned the building that Goodwood's in. It was it was a $1.5 million purchase, which was the biggest purchase I'd ever made in my life. I mean, mortgage, kind of everything personally. I was like, how am I going to make that payment? How am I going to pay my people? All those fears came in. And I remember being at the beach one night, And I'm like, I wish I called, I think I called the owner of Edley's, Will Newman. And I was like, how are you doing? And he's always, since I've known him, he's been steady. Mm-hmm. He's always been great. I said, how you doing? He goes, I'm not doing very well. I said, what's wrong? He goes, tomorrow morning, I need to lay off 85% of my staff. And my heart just like broke. And, I was texting Hal, one of the owners of Lachlan Table, like just a neighborhood restaurant right by my house. I'm always in there. How are you doing? Kind of same thing. And when Will told me that about the staff, my heart broke. And I remember this moment where I'm at the beach. Obviously, the trauma of the tornado, I'm thinking I'm going bankrupt. And then Will, this guy who really helped me, really, like, Edley's was a huge thing for me in my business. They're a huge part of my story of really establishing us and helping us get started as a company. And being able to be proud of, oh, we're in the Edleys. That's our work. And being able to tell people, oh, we're, if you want to see our work, go see the Edleys and have lunch there. And so when Will told me that, I was sitting at the beach and I thought to myself, what can we do? What can I do to help Will? And it was this moment. It was this fork in the road. It was this kind of, just this divine moment for me where it was like, maybe we could make something like cutting boards or something and sell them and donate maybe half the proceeds to Edley's. And maybe we can do this for different restaurants, because it was the restaurants who were shutting down immediately. And that was a huge domino effect for the communities, right? And so I remember this feeling of, well, maybe I can do that. So I texted my staff, I emailed everybody. I was like, what can we do? Like, what can we build? Like, can we build cutting boards? Like, and years ago, we made cutting boards in the shape of Lachlan Table's logo for them that they could sell. And it was a little cumbersome, but we like time intensive, but I was like, maybe we can build different things for different restaurants to help. And my staff came up with this idea because of the Nashville Strong artwork that we had spray painted on my house, plywood windows. Somehow, a guy who worked for me, Luke, and me and the staff, we kind of came up with this idea of, well, maybe we could make these signs. We have a machine called a CNC machine. It carves into plywood and it carves art and logos. And I was like, so I called Josh Newman, who's in my forum. I was like, hey, what do you think about this? He's like, yeah, let me tweak some art ideas. Let me play with something. Here's a couple ideas. And he's so creative. And he's just like, yeah, use this. And I called Lauren Reed PR. She's in my forum. And I was like, Lauren, like, and my whole forum got real excited about this idea with me. And so what I decided was, part of what I decided was I want to help these people. And then part of what I decided was, you know what? If I'm going down, I'm going down swinging. If I'm going bankrupt,
go all the way.
I'm going to spend the last $2,000 I have on Reed PR. I said, Lauren, what would it look like if you help me? I'm going to give you, if I'm going down fighting. And so I hired Lauren's company. She's like, well, what do you have? Let's think about this. What could we try to publicize and stuff? And this was before Nashville Strong was like on the front burner. So when I was telling her what we're doing. I was like, oh, and this idea we're trying to develop. She's like, we can run with that all day long. I love this story. And everybody loved the story. So she called her news people. Josh Newman from Statement just donated the art. He's like, I don't want anything. Just maybe we tipped some of his designers when they made some tweaks, or there was something, but like he personally was like, just use it. If you can do good with it, do it. Lauren Reed, what she charged me, I know, was peanuts compared to what she should have, and she got her staff on there. And we started doing this. We announced this campaign. We reached out to every friend I had on Instagram, anybody who had followers, musician friends of mine, customers of ours that were like, Elizabeth Hasselbeck, she had been a customer of ours and just loved, and she has kind of a following, and we reached out to her and she just loved it. So she was like, oh, I'll just spread. Everybody we knew started spreading the word about what we were doing. And then Lauren just got us on the news, and, Reed PR did a great job of like helping people find the story. Style Blueprint, another EO, Jay Graves and Liza Graves. Jay was in my forum. He was like, one day I'm like watching. So we started selling these signs. Oh, and by the way, the concept was buy a $50 yard sign, says Nashville Strong. We'll donate $25 to anybody you say. Is your buddy Eric? And he did this. He did work for you and now he's out of work. We'll send Eric a check. One check to one person. Just give me the address, which I forgot to ask for when I kicked this whole thing off. So that was really hard. I'm not very good with systems and details. We had to like Google people and like, hi, I need your address. I'm going to send you a check. We were like, this is a suspect scam. You know?
No.
It was hilarious. But we started selling these things, selling them online. Lauren got us on a lot of PR. And then one day I'm watching our sales and our website hits. We had never really sold much on our website. And one day it's just this huge spike. And I was like, what in the world happened? And Jay Graves later that day was like, oh, by the way, we wrote about you in Style Blueprint. I was like,
nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice.
I was like, and they didn't even tell, I don't even think I knew, but I saw this huge spike because they loved what we were doing. And she was trying to highlight, I think they were just trying to highlight good things, you know, people doing good right now during the pandemic and trying to highlight the fact that there was so much good out there still. So that kicked off basically what ended up, we raised about $60,000 through our website sales from people all over the country, bought signs. And it also enabled my guys to spread out all throughout our building and work safely, kind of isolated by themselves. Everybody kind of had different roles. And on the whole, we probably lost a little money giving away half. When we did the books, we're like, But what it did was it gave my guys work, and it gave me a way, this whole process, the decision I made to help others got my head out of my ass. And I would say like that was the moment. So when we talk about decisions, the decision to stop looking at myself and my woe is me and what can I do to help others in this tragedy, that was this huge moment, huge fork in the road for me. And the idea just came to me. My staff helped me flesh it out. My EO forum helped me with publicity and help, the art and all this stuff. And we were able to give away just tons of money. And I got notes from people who were like, some people said, I'm not cashing your check. Thank you. It's very kind, but I want Good Wood to have the money. You could tell us who you wanted to donate money. Some people said, we donate to Good Wood, keep it up. Some people were like, donate it to my dog walker. So we'd send them and me and the kids at night, we'd gather around the table, me and my family. We made a little cutoff, like to tell people what we're doing. And we put a little Good Wood postcard in there. Figure might as well, right? Yeah. Get a little advertising. and we wrote them a check.
Wow.
By hand, $60,000 worth.
Wow.
And we did that for a few months. And after a while, the world started.
Business comes back, yeah.
Business came back. People started renovating their houses and it kind of took off. But it was this moment where it was the decision to help other people that I would say you could argue it changed my life. Because I literally was just so focused on myself and my business coach I was like, we got to cut costs. And he's like, Dave, you're not going to cost cut your way out of this. You need to sell. You got to go out and sell. You have go sell. So that's the story of the Nashville Strong campaign. And, my staff was proud. They were proud to work at Good Wood. I think they were proud of the work we did, proud of the contribution we made in the community. I was proud, and it was like definitely one of the highlights. Been in business 11 years this year. And that moment was probably one of the highlights of it where, oh my gosh, I have a platform to do good. I didn't do it alone by any means, but I had a platform to do good and help others. And ultimately it helped me, helped Good Wood, so many people saw us in the news and they're like, we've been wanting an old high school friend reached out. We want a custom master bedroom suite. And she wrote me a check. They wrote me a check for deposit. And I was like, I think our business might make it. Not kidding. So those are the moments, you don't forget.
Yeah, but how do we find those situations where we have the worst happen? That this kind of shakes you to your core, where you have all that fear build up, and I can't do it. I'm asking others so I can learn and just be like, okay, it's going to work out. I just don't know how.
Yeah.
But I could see how going into the work mode and just helping, that it's way easier than sitting there with the fear just bubbling inside and just, oh my gosh, what's next?
Right.
I could see how that was just a great go-to. Is there other times that you've had where you've had that fear like that? Did you, what did you revert to before? What was the before Dave when something terrible happened?
I did have a moment that, probably a defining moment of my life where in my 20s, I sold books door to door. Because, there's fight, flight, and freeze, right? Those are the three. It's not just fight or flight. There's fight, flight, or freeze. And so when I was selling books door to door for Southwestern, their Nashville company, I was up in Pennsylvania. And I was doing great, had a great summer. I was trying to be like the number one guy in the country for the rookies. And like every week it'd go to a different person, how we were competing with each other. And at the very end of the summer, I knocked on a door of a customer's house to deliver their books. And a man walked out, didn't know who I was, hadn't met me when I had been there before in the summer selling some kids' books to his family. And believe it or not, he pulled a gun on me from closer than you and I are sitting next to each other, and threatened my life. And I begged him for my life. He shot near my feet, just like the movies, to kind of make you dance. Like, wow. And finally he said, get the blankety blank out of here. And I did. And I kept my eyes on him the whole time, because I thought, well, if he's going to shoot me, I want to see it coming. I don't know. Something in me didn't want to break eyes with him. So I get in the car. I back out. He had an old farmhouse that you kind of pulled right up to the porch. So I back out, and I'm like, okay, do I back this way and I'm close to him, or do I back this way? So I backed this way, and he, no joke, he opened fire on my car, and a bullet lodged in my back car rubber gasket of the window and stuck there, and there's right behind that rubber gasket is a very thin plate of metal. And if it had been to the left a half of an inch, there's a very good chance it would hit me. To the right 4 inches, there's a very good chance it would hit me. And this was a moving vehicle. So I pulled up to the next house, and we called the cops, and that guy went to jail ultimately. But I remember that I still had to finish my summer.
Wow.
So this was week 9 of a 10-week summer.
What was the emotion like the next house you went to?
Well, it was interesting because people joke that I've never met a stranger. So I think, when you meet young kids, like some kids are very outgoing and some kids aren't. And my son's this way. He never meets a stranger. There's a trust of the stranger.
Right.
Which obviously as a parent, you're like, be careful. But my point is, like, you have this, my natural default my whole life was trust. And when this happened, my natural default changed to distrust and fear. And so I remember my brother came to work with me. He was my manager selling books. Other managers came to work with me and helped me finish. And I had like 10 days where I had to go deliver books. Now, so part of it was safe because it was in the news. A lot of people had compassion for me, and they were like, I'm really sorry. He doesn't represent us. But I had to finish the job. I had $50,000 in sales. I had to give these people their product.
That's a good summer, by the way.
I made $17,000 in cash. Saved.
Yeah. I remember.
It was a heck of a summer.
Yeah, I remember those recruiters at MTSU, and I was like, some people were making money.
Some people can make it, yeah. And that's when I found out I like sales. So and I didn't mind working. I loved it. I love meeting people, but I've lost my trust of the stranger. So what I remember is, delivering the books, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to the customer's house. I don't think I can knock on any more cold doors. But I remember thinking to myself, if I don't do this, if I go home at the end of this summer and I don't knock on any cold doors, I don't know that I'll ever be able to do that again. And so I remember that I didn't do it a lot, but during deliveries, I decided I'm going to knock on a couple cold doors. And I did, and one house was freaky, and I got out of there. But I met a few more nice families, maybe made a couple more sales. But the key was I I worked through my fear and knocked again. And then I actually did it the next summer. I was like, I need to do it another summer. Like, I can't let this beat me. I can't let this define my life.
Yeah.
That was smart.
I want to still have the trust of the stranger, not the distrust and, or the fear. So that was probably another episode of my life where it was a real decision, a real fork in the road as far as, that really affected my life, how I view my life. The fact that I was able to get married, have kids, I feel like it's all bonus round because I literally thought I was going to die at 21.
Yeah. Now, one of the things we do in EO is the lifelines, and you make those peaks and valleys of your life. And what I think is always interesting, it's the peak after the valley always. And now I'm starting to get where I'm like, you know what, this low point, whatever this is. You could almost, if you really put your mind to it, take a defeat and go, there is something around the corner. I have no idea what it is, but it's just around the corner. We just have to let it happen. And the things are happening for us and not to us. And but it's hard when we're in those stages where, oh my gosh, what's next? And it must have been somewhat comforting in a way when you called your friend at Edley's and you heard his struggle. And that was the thing that kind of struck me because, there were some people, their business was decimated, like overnight. It was like, no question. And then others like, beautiful opportunity.
Right.
And they're like, oh my God, I need to hire people, and I need more resources. And you're like, just bizarre to see that so quickly can happen.
Like the takeout phenomenon. A lot of restaurants figured it out and went, oh, all right, well, we can deliver food. Right?
Yeah.
So let's do that.
Right. They pivoted very quickly to, yeah.
And I think probably what the network that we have in EO really lends itself well for those defeating moments. And also the lifting moments where there are tons of different opportunities and you got to line up resources quickly. And the fact that people just band together and they just make it happen.
Yeah, the banding together, the camaraderie, that whole season of, learning about PPP loans, but being able to kind of learn from each other. And then also people would say, oh, well, my banker was great. We just submitted. And so people are like, well, can you put me in touch because my banker's not answering my calls. And so just the networking, the leveraging those relationships, that's been a gift. When you join EO, you think you're doing it because you're finding a place with other entrepreneurs where you can have relationships and understand each other, right? It's hard to talk to your buddy about, I don't know if I can make payroll when my buddy's been working for the man his whole life. Right. He doesn't have that concern. He gets paid every 2 weeks. And so, nothing wrong with that. It's just, he's not going to understand some of my pressures of running a company. And so 100%, I just thought it was for kind of learning from each other, but yeah, the network itself is so strong. The support network, it's just, it's remarkable.
So help another EOer in time of struggle, in time of need. How would you go about helping face a tough decision, and what tools and resources that you probably do now that maybe you haven't done before when you started your business, that you've kind of grown accustomed to making more difficult, challenging decisions? Yeah. Is there any kind of framework that you use, or how do you deal with those kind of things when you're kind of forced to make tough decisions?
It's a great question. I think that probably over the 10 years, what's probably helped is leaning on kind of my inner circle, my EO forum as sort of my brain trust. And, we try not to just tell people what to do, right? That's a big EO value. And a lot of times we accomplish that. Yeah. Sometimes around drinks, it ain't that gentle. But what I learned is, like when you and I were in a group, people just tell you what to do all the time. And I was like, that wasn't helpful because there was just so many opinions. So I think the idea of like people saying, well, this is my experience, that's really helpful. And so I think what I've learned is, the brain trust I've kind of learned to depend on and process things. I think in 11 years of business and maybe 6 years in EO, excuse me, I think what I hope has happened is I'm less impetuous. So like growing up, I just, the strength of impetuous is like you can make decisions quickly. The weakness of being impetuous is you might make really bad decisions really quickly and not vet these things, not think them through. So I think Forum has shown me how to process things, how to view things from different angles. I might say, I think this is what we need to do. And my Forum has these great insights of like, when I was in your shoes, I did like this happened to me. We sold a business and the data was so important and that we forgot we weren't tracking X, Y, or Z. So just this collective learning has been so helpful. So I would say that, and I hope that it's transitioning into the workplace for me. Because over the last few years, I've been trying to develop leaders and not have just a sort of just me at the head. And it's not healthy if I'm making all the decisions. When we're fully staffed, we should be about 15 people. So I'm trying to get better at like, well, what do you think we should do?
I was going to mention, there's a 4-letter question or 4-word question that I ask my team. What do you think?
Yeah.
Because most of the time when I ask that, it's like, oh gosh, what are we going to do? I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I'll just ask that question and shut up and see what happens. And magic happens typically.
Yeah, it does happen. And it gives people a chance to lead, people a chance to grow.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if I have the restraint to do it, people really step up. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that DNA, or not the DNA, but that paradigm, that mindset of like listening to your forum and sharing your experiences has helped me listen to my leaders and hear their experiences. And, I might be like, I think we should do this. And my staff might say, well, we think that's not a great idea. And here's why. And I'm like, yeah, it's a great point. Whereas early days, I might have just been like, this is what I want. This is what we're doing.
Well, so often we have this feeling that everything is on us.
Yeah.
And I think, listening to you talk about the tornado, you realize you couldn't have done all the things that got done.
No.
You have to rely on others.
Without a doubt.
And that's something I think as entrepreneurs we have a hard time letting go of. It's like, all right, we're not really in control here. There's only so many things we can control, our attitude being one of them.
That's right.
And then if you turn loose.
That's right.
Yeah, and you're in a situation where you're unsure the health of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the act of not only helping others, you gave the team members energy behind why they come to work. And by making something from others, it probably galvanized the team at a different level than you've probably seen before in teamwork,
No, the team spirit was strong.
Yeah.
And we were all stressed and learning with how it was at our own families and our own people. We were worried, but the team unity was awesome. And we were all in it together, and we were all a little overwhelmed, even just trying to figure out how to build these and how to track them and how to call our customers, tell them they're ready, and set them outside so we don't have 6 feet of space and like all that stuff.
It's
was just crazy.
so silly right now to even look back at how ridiculous we were.
Yeah. We were so scared. And
I have a very important question for you.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to Beth?
Beth's a great story. So my daughter cried about Beth the tree being torn down by Mother Nature. And so we were sitting there a few days later, and my kids know what I do. I'm in custom woodworking. So Anna says to me, "Hey Dad, do you think you could make me a piece of furniture out of Beth?" And I was like,
right in the heart.
Oh, just honey, whatever you want. And what was interesting is that got my mind focused on a different trigger as well. So I was like, oh my gosh, yes, we have to save Beth. So, and then I was like, wait, my other trees are down. We should save those trees. And my neighbor's trees are down. We should save those trees. And so what we did was we decided, oh my gosh, actually gives us a chance. We started collecting trees. So while I'm, trying not to go bankrupt and trying to do Nashville Strong, I'm like, why not? What the heck? Let's just start collecting trees.
Yeah,
and I have
not?
No machines and very little. I've got trucks and trailers and a couple of chainsaws and a bunch of will and desire. And so I'd be like, oh, they got a skid steer on their job. There's a backhoe over there. Hey, can I give you $20? Can you load this tree on this trailer? Hey, can you help me over here? And so we started collecting all these trees. And then Christian Perro from Center 615, he knew what we were doing. His wife found out what we were doing about saving all these urban trees. They had some land they wanted to, they're sitting on for years to develop. And they're like, hey, do you need a place to put all those trees? And so they gave us just this really cheap rent to kind of just dump the trees there, let them, just aggregate, collect those trees. And so then we decided, oh my gosh, we're going to sell tornado tables. And so we started selling tornado tables as part of our get out of the hole. We would give people a significant discount if they pre-purchased a table, because it takes about a year to you've got to let the wood dry and then build it. So I'd be like, Eric, you want to buy a tornado table? Great. Give me $5,000 instead of $6,000. And in a year, you might get a table. Right. That's a lot of trust. It's a lot of ask. And so, but that's what we did. So because my daughter asked me to save Beth, we started collecting all these trees, and the tornado tables were it was almost like a GoFundMe, in the sense of people could prepay, and it helped us get some cash flow, get some jobs on the board. It helped us. We had to collect all these trees and we milled a bunch of trees right there in East Nashville. And so we have Beth. Beth is drying. I'm going to need to make Anna something from that. And I have her best friend's maple tree. My goal, if I can figure it out and figure out a design, is to maybe make them both little side tables with maple and poplar, because they're best friends, and they have been since kindergarten. And so that's my goal. Is bake them something with both their favorite
heirloom quality.
Dude,
stuff.
these are stories I had not known. So awesome.
We had fun.
Yeah, I didn't know about Beth, but I have sat at one of the tables before. Mike Rustacy has one of those tables.
That's the tornado table. Yeah, the bright yellow. That's an Osage orange.
Yeah.
Came from right at 5 Points in East Nashville.
Yeah.
From Laura McCoy. I think she's an EO, isn't she?
She was in a Catalyst forum that Mike and I moderated.
Okay.
And she recognized it.
Yeah, she's like, wait a minute. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, we'll build you something from your. She texted me, you want my tree? I go, put a person in it. She put her kid in it, and it was taller than her kid. I was like, yeah, we want that. We want that tree. It was just crazy.
Dave, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
What a great story.
Letting me share my story. And I think what we were talking about is, I think what I'll do is, I have never reached back out to the people that bought the Nashville Strong signs. We probably had, a couple thousand people buy that. So I think what I may do is I may use this opportunity to reach out, and it's pretty belated, kind of 2 years later. I'm just gonna say, hey, thanks again, and I got to talk about that journey today on this podcast. So this is public, right? I can say this is the public.
Perfect.
Send them a link to the podcast.
Yeah. So,
thank you, Dave, with Good Wood. Thank you
for having me, guys. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Decision Podcast by Nashville EO. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.